Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girl, welcome to the BD MMA experience. So I'm going to try something a little new here, and potentially going forward, and a little bit later on in the video, I'll pose it as kind of, a question or thing that you can all comment on, because I feel like I've lost my, or I've gotten my finger off the pulse of what people want these days. I had a formulaic sort of thing for a while where I would make breakdowns to music and text, because I feel like I'm a better writer than I am speaker, but anyway, I would always improv those too, so it's going to be within that realm, but I don't want to be boring at the beginning of the video or too ranty, so I'm going to divide this into basically 5 sections, and it's just going to be me talking. I might throw some video or photos to it. If not at first when I release it, maybe Thursday, because I'm usually off Mondays and Thursdays from my full-time job. So this first section will be this past weekend, so Whittaker versus RDR, maybe the fallout from that, and potential fights going forward for either of them. Second chapter, I suppose, will be upcoming fights that I'm fired up for. Third will be Ilia's recent rise and some things that go along with that, especially commentaries, kind of with him. Maybe even the promotions. I feel like he's being sold wrong, and it bugs me because the dude is special. He's spectacular, and maybe the best show on earth right now as far as just entertainment-wise, sports, whatever. Obviously, we're all here for MMA, so I'm going to narrow it down to that as our sport. Fourth, we'll do content going forward and ideas regarding like when to post what, and that'll just require some feedback from everyone. Hopefully you can share this or bounce it off your friends or whatever, but it's just going to be me talking. So I want to get that out of the way, and we'll get going. So firstly, this past weekend, and I didn't get to watch it live because I was working, but afterward I watched Whittaker versus RDR, and I tried to watch the Petr Yan fight. I had to catch that the next day because ESPN streaming is just brutal. But my initial thoughts watching the fight were that it was close. I haven't rewatched it since the first time that I watched it. Even then, I was kind of like half-assing it, but it seemed like Whittaker won that fight to me. Either that, or maybe I was annoyed with RDR's kind of desperation type tactics in order to get the win. And I'm usually of the mind that in combat sports it's a zero-sum game, right? The idea is winning, so you do what you got to do to win. There's a limit there sometimes, though, and I think one of the great things that Pride got right that the UFC gets wrong in both directions, or on both sides of this coin, is like the idea of stalling or the idea of not bringing the fight. There are certainly people that fight off the back foot. I mean, it's not like you have to be a pressure fighter to qualify, right? And it's not like grappling bores me. I love grappling, but just having a guy on the fence with hooks for, let's say you're at least attempting it 3 minutes of every round or 2 minutes of every round. You're attempting to just keep someone on the cage with hooks in place. There's no other offense being generated. There's really no takedowns being scored, a ton of them being defended. I'm not sure that's dominance. I'm really not sure, and I don't know how to fix it, but I know what I'm seeing, right? And that fight it certainly didn't feel like some dominant win from RDR. I don't know. I could watch it again, and you could certainly convince me pretty easily that RDR won the fight, because I could watch it again a little more closely, but it just felt like Whittaker maybe didn't get the rub. Now I should add this: he didn't look his best. He looked fairly tired, fairly early too. I remember a guy that won some hard rounds with Yoel, that was a pretty dominant champion for a while and has beat some of the best people in that division forever. This is a guy that came up from 170. I mean, Whittaker's has been impressive most of his career, and I'm a huge fan. I think he's a gentleman. I think he's intelligent. I love his fighting style. I mean, he's incredible. He has a lot of things right, but I don't know if it was a matter of he's getting, a little long in the tooth, and I'm not even sure exactly how old he is. It could be something else too, but the other thing I was pondering is how much that Khamzat fight took out of him as far as just fighter swagger, right? Like, there's a thing that you have at the top, and, I've been around enough of them to know this. There's a whatever you want to call it, swagger, confidence. There's an extra level of that they believe what they're saying, and they believe they're as good as they are, or more so, right? And I think some of that comes into play when you see like how a lot of guys that are champions have some sort of faith. They have some sort of like overarching thing that keeps them in the realm of humility usually, but they also have this confidence that is like otherworldly. Ilia being the obvious recent example of some just insane confidence, but he's a man of faith, and he's a family man. He's not, and I think Khabib was right when he like kind kind of like backhand complimented him recently when they asked him in an interview if he thought that Ilia could be the next Conor, and Khabib's like, no, I think he's a nice guy, which I think is a compliment. I don't know if he meant it as a compliment, but either way, that's the end result. So with that, I don't really know. I don't know who won the fight. I'm not gonna go out on a limb about this, but it's kind of a meh, and I hated seeing Whittaker almost win and then kind of lose what seemed like a decision that he had. So that's the one half. The other half is, can RDR beat the top tier guys? Even Khamzat and DDP, I'll immediately say no on both of them. But that other tier of guys that are kind of, jockeying for that top spot, say Imavov and Borralho, who are fighting soon, which is a great fight. And I think the winner of that should probably be next in line for a title shot, or if not, they're right there. I think both of those guys, or whoever wins that fight anyway, certainly, I think is probably also capable of beating RDR. I just don't think his stand-up will be able to do anything with Imavov, and I think Borralho mixes it up in an interesting way that I think is a little too unpredictable for RDR's semi-predictable approach. He's got a great, clinch game. He's got a great ground game, obviously, but his stand-ups, it's not awkward in the way that, DDP's is. It's awkward in that I don't know how efficient it really is. I mean, obviously what he did to Bo Nicholas was impressive, and it was technically satisfying to me, but I don't see him beating someone like Nas right now. I think Nasruddin Imavov is an excellent fighter, and I think he's very underappreciated at this point. And I also think I think he'd sleep RDR just based on what I've seen recently and what I've seen, prior, obviously. So that happened. The only other fight that was of quasi importance to me was Petr Yan fighting, but I feel like he's kind of past the point of title contention, which is frustrating because he's such a fun fighter to watch. He's very technical, and I think he's someone that's a great fighter that people that aren't naturally athletic can learn a lot from, in the same way that I used to do advanced fundamental studies, and I think I still have one up on Bernard Hopkins, right? It's not the guys that aren't athletically good, that's not what got them good, or that's not what made them better. What made them better is their technical acumen, their defense, their XYZ thing that they're doing right, that I feel like anyone can do with the proper conditioning or mindset or coaching or whatever the case. The everyman fighter, right? So Bernard Hopkins would be a good example of that in boxing, I believe anyway. And I think someone like Petr Yan, I don't think he's necessarily a super athlete, but I do believe he's a fighter. He is a fighter at heart, and he's really good in pretty much all facets of MMA, I would say. And I used to hear pretty legendary shit about him when he was training down in Coconut Creek. I had friends down there from when I almost moved there and worked there, et cetera, and people were saying this dude was just something special. And I believe he was, and I believe he still is, but I don't know if he's had such a run at this point that he's kind of falling into that, perennial top 5 but not title contention status. Who knows? But he's a wonderful fighter to watch, and I think you can really learn a lot from him. I think if you just go on my channel and type in his name, you'll find a lot of that to be true. I've done an immense amount of studying on him that I've made public. So impressive as always from him, but not surprising. He's a very technically smart and varied. He has variance amongst his technique. He's a great switch stance guy. A lot of things that I've been talking about, I feel like since 2013 really. Very high IQ boxing wise, et cetera. He's a fighter's fighter. He wants the fight to be as exciting as you want it to be. Rooting for the guy, but I don't know that he'll ever get back to the very top of his division. Either way, he's entertaining. As far as upcoming fights that I'm fired up for, and this will kind of be where I have the most to say. Especially because some of my I don't really know. I don't know who I'm picking, but those are the best fights to me, especially at the highest level. Right? Is that I'm not confident in a pick at this point, and I don't know that I will be. I have things to say though that hopefully we can all use, and for the gambling, the gamblers out there, keep these things in mind. Maybe if you plan on betting on any of these fights, Plessis or DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev is a very, very interesting fight to me, especially due to the the unpredictability of both of them. Both of them are unpredictable in very different ways, but they are unpredictable. And I think DDP is a physical specimen, but I also think people somehow have forgotten that Khamzat is also a physical specimen. In MMA, it is not the Adonis, the bodybuilder type that is always the physical, imposing specimen. Speed sometimes can look a lot more impressive than body fat percentage, right? Khamzat's ability to shoot from halfway across the cage and still secure takedowns, and what he can do once there is second to none in all of MMA right now. The issue is he seems to do it in the first round, and after that there isn't a fight where he's gone back to the well like that. And as Khabib famously said it in his prime, I think he said at DC, if he doesn't get a takedown, he doesn't care, because he'll shoot another 100. And I think what he's really saying there is he doesn't fatigue. And we could go back to the Whittaker fight and maybe talk about fatigue and grappling and the difference between striking and grappling and fatigue, and I know that well myself, personally, because of what I did first in my life. I spent a lot more time striking than I did grappling, or I started at a much younger age anyway. So one of the two I'm more efficient at, obviously. And I think most people get tired grappling. And if there's a chink in most people's armor, it's usually that they can get robbed, right? It's not even a technical thing. Like Umar suffered from this a lot, actually, and maybe the wrong decision as well. But he just faded in those last rounds when he couldn't go as hard, and Merab still could. Technically, Umar is much more gifted. I don't think anyone would question that. Not anyone sane. And in this fight with Plessis and Khamzat, is it going to be the cardio thing only, or is it that sometimes Khamzat just does not fight intelligently in his brightest moments to do so, right? His first round against everyone is always good. He doesn't ever have a bad first round. He always dominates pretty much every first round he's been in. And sometimes he dominates to the point where it's like, who on earth is going to stop that, right? He's technically incredible. His wrestling is absolutely top-notch. It's as high level as anyone's I've ever seen in MMA, and I would only put the Khabib Islam types in that realm, and his ability to dictate that, right? If the fight is going to go to the ground, he is so good. The way that he took down Usman, the way that he was controlling Dorrino, Gilbert Burns on the ground, what he did to Whittaker, right? It's spectacular. And here's the other thing is he's got one-punch knockout power too. The problem is that he has one-punch knockout power, right? Sometimes those strengths get people into these cowboy-itis fights where it's like a dick measuring competition, and I don't think that's good for him. And I noticed it a little bit before everyone else did, maybe, or anyone I talked to or heard speaking about it publicly. When he was about to fight Burns, there was a lot of coverage of backstage nonsense, and I didn't feel like any of that was coming from Khamzat was genuine. Like his anger and his trying to scare an old gangster like Gilbert. Like, you're not gonna scare that guy. What are you doing? You're a professional athlete. This isn't the streets. I never understood that, right? So especially in today's landscape, I don't think that's the way to go. Now I like the psychological game a lot, and I pay attention to it. I think we're seeing some of that with Khamzat and DDP play out already. And if there's anyone that's good at getting under people's skin right now in the game, it's got to be Dreykus, right? I mean, the guy's he is a savage. Zero foxtrot, dude. He's just based as fuck. He seems like that guy doesn't answer to anyone. He doesn't care. And there isn't a filter. There is no limit to what he'll say or what he won't say. And he's witty. He's sellable, right? I like him as a champion. His fighting style is insane. That part, I've watched him enough to know that I don't know. I don't know what that guy's doing, but it works. And you can't really argue with efficacy, right? Fascinating fight. I certainly think Khamzat is way ahead of him grappling. Way ahead. But will it even play out like that, right? Will he get frustrated when he can't get him? If he doesn't take him out in the first round, will he get frustrated so much in the second round he starts getting lit up and wants to turn it into a slugfest, right? A fight in the phone booth. What he did with Burns, what he did with Usman, where it's just I'm kind of tired of going for guns. I'm gonna box from southpaw. What are you doing? That's not what got you here. It seems crazy to me, and I understand it against guys like that a bit, because they're also great grapplers. I mean, no one's ever done to Usman what Khamzat did in the first round. He controlled him the entire round. He was threatening him. But then the second round, just abandoned that. That's just not high fight IQ. It can't be. And it can't just be that he's fatigued. How long's that dude been wrestling? You can't get that good and not have thousands of hours under your belt, right? He's also from the region of the world that you tend to have better cardio with your grappling just because of your training conditions, right? And the the not just the training conditions. I should even add this, the approach to training, right? The way like the Caucasus approach wrestling practice is it's a lifestyle. It's an all day every day thing. They'll meet each other, backstage at an event, and they start, hand fighting. It's like it's just part of their thing. They'll practice, they'll go over hand fighting like on a street sidewalk in sneakers, right? It's just part of the gig from when they're young, and that's how they get so good. I mean, it's part of how they get so good. It's just a culture of that, and there's a lot of brilliant minds over there as well that don't hurt. But I think, Khamzat could probably stand with Dreykus and hurt him, but defensively, he seems susceptible every fight he's in that he actually has some striking exchanges, right? So with Gilbert and with Usman, and these are great fighters, so I'm not like, this isn't besmirching anyone. If I'm besmirching anything, it's Khamzat's not moral, but like his I don't even know if it's fight IQ. There's a midgetry, like there's a weakness in him, a chink in the armor, and if he has one, I believe anyway, it would be his approach in pacing, right? And I'll just call it cowboyitis, right? It's kind of like an old mob term to describe, like, they used to use it to describe like Pesci's character Nicky in Goodfellas. That guy had cowboyitis, right? Or Nicky was in Casino. You don't have to prove that anymore, right? We know you're tough. Like, you're about to fight for a belt. So that's very fascinating to me in the fact that I don't know who to pick. I can see that going a lot of different ways. I do think Khamzat is the more gifted technical fighter, but I don't even know how much that'll come into play by the time it's, everyone's ready to dance. I really don't know. Fascinating fight though. Fascinating fight. And there's lesser fights coming up, but of all the ones that are in like the recent, that are upcoming, that one's really got, that'll have my eyes peeled, and I'll certainly do some analysis either before or after of that one, I'd imagine. Other semi-noteworthy, Imavov versus Borralho. I like Imavov in that fight, but obviously Borralho's, surrounding himself with the right people. He's on the right team. He could certainly win that. He's got a nice, well-rounded, unique sort of approach. Imavov is an absolute sniper, though, and he's a better grappler than I think he gets credit for as well. So I think I like Imavov in that fight, but I'm really looking forward to see how that plays out, because that's that second tier, potential contender, et cetera fight. Also, we have Diego Lopes versus Silva coming up. I'll be rooting for Diego Lopes, certainly hard. I don't know that he'll win, but I do think it's a nice jump up in competition for Silva. Diego's a big boy, and most recently we saw him, give Volkanovski a run there. He hit him with some missiles, and he showed a lot of heart, importantly, and I think that was kind of part of the story that was left out there, is that dude was game, right? He was hittable. He's got a lot to work on technically. I don't like the way he throws his right hand, for example. Why you wouldn't tighten up something that he has so much natural torque in it is beyond me as a striking coach, but I feel like he's gifted. I feel like he's game. I think he's got some cleaning up to do on his technique. I think Silva's got some great deceptive technique, and he's a monster. But I don't know how he's going to do against that very top tier, right? I feel like he beat Bryce before they fought, and I feel like other people beat Bryce enough before they fought for that fight to go as it did, because Bryce had a good first round, so that's an interesting one. I don't know who I'm picking, but I'll be watching closely for sure. And in the more kind of distant, looking forward to realm, Islam versus JDM, and I'm only bringing this up really, and I'm not going to spend much time on it, but I'm bringing this up because I just broke down JDM, and I spent a lot of time watching film on him before I did it, and that dude is really good. And I'll tell you what, to kind of revert back to a point from earlier, he's very technical, relaxed, and another guy that I feel like the everyman can learn a lot from. Now, I don't know the level to which he is ambidextrous. I cannot speak for the man. I don't know. I have no way of knowing that. But he's very seamless in his stance switching. Another thing I've been, just screaming about since I feel like 2012, 13, for that area anyway, is that the importance in MMA of being able to switch your stance. Just when calf kicks became more and more prevalent, it was like a duh. It'd be a duh to me. But he's good at it in a way that I don't think he's thinking about it. I think he's just rolling with it, which is beautiful. And I think there's something about his relaxation that makes him excellent with his boxing, excellent with his anti-grappling especially. He's just relaxed, and he's willing to take chances, but nothing too crazy in both realms, right? But his boxing is beautiful, and it's slick in that he's got no tell in his like wonderfully relaxed shoulders. And anyone that's ever hit mitts when I'm holding them knows, like early on, I'm usually saying relax your shoulders, but it's like it's a thing. thing, right? And it's a hard thing to teach, and it's an even harder thing to execute, even in sparring, right? Like it's natural to tighten up when you got someone trying to punch you in the face. That's just being human. But at that top level, obviously all those guys are special at something. And I think his special gift is his ability to just be relaxed in the fire, right? And I think his boxing technique is so good because he's so relaxed and relentless. And the fact that his stance switching is just part of his game. It's not, sometimes, okay, I'll give you an example. Sometimes when you watch Izzy, who's excellent from both, or O'Malley, who's excellent from both sides, it does seem like cognitive, thought out, planned, like it's a thought. It's not just part of how they fight. And the reason that I say that is if you watch Sean O'Malley throw a right straight and watch him throw a left straight, and you tell me the difference, right? At this point, the people that are listening to this understand the difference. Just watch them. He is clearly right hand dominant. His left foot, when he throws a left straight, stays on the canvas. It's pretty grounded, like he can't turn his hip over, right? But when he throws a right hand, it looks like Tommy Hearn's right hand. So he switches stance, but it's almost like, some of it is almost for flash. I can understand in Izzy's case, a lot of it is for defense. His offense changes quite a bit in both stances. But I always felt like Izzy was really good defensively from southpaw, but not as good offensively. So there are reasons people can switch stances and it not be just, so sequitur or so much of a part of their game. Volkanovski is another one, and it makes sense, right? Given their closeness. He's like a JDM in that he switches stance a lot. And the reason that I'm celebrating this guy quite a bit is, it's no secret that I'm a fan of Khabib and Islam and the technique. And I didn't see too many people giving Islam a run. I thought Arman had a good shot, maybe, just because he's so explosive and athletic and willing to, be in the fire. And that their wrestling exchanges in their last fight, I know it was a million years ago, that's some of the most impressive back and forth technical MMA wrestling you'll ever see. It was impressive. And I think Arman's got crazy power standing. So, I always thought he had something there. Islam's going up 15 pounds, not 10, right? And he's fighting a guy that just put it on Belal. A Belal who had been dominating everyone for a while. And I slept on him. And I'm guilty of it like most. I didn't understand how good Belal was at first. I just thought he was a grinder with good cardio and, a lot of heart, decent boxing, obviously good wrestling. But I didn't realize how good he was at imposing himself on people, right? JDM just made him look kind of, like he had a puncher's chance, I guess, right? He wasn't shooting much. He played into Jack Della Maddalena's game more than he imposed his own, which was kind of the first time we've seen that from him in a long, long time. Just an impressive win. And with Islam, the thing is will he be able to control a guy that's so scramble crazy and so good striking that he might not have the same confidence in his shots if he gets tagged up a bit early, or if he can't complete takedowns to the point with which he gets control. Again, JDM is almost like a larger, obviously not as fast version of Volkanovski, who in their first fight, certainly gave Islam a run, more so than anyone has in a long time. Second fight, obviously, Islam made some absolutely magical adjustments. Once again, a thing I've broken down on the channel. But the second performance from Islam was impressive. So I think his striking now, versus say like the Arman fight I just referenced, is so much better. And I think Islam is competent standing with someone like Jack. And I believe his offensive wrestling is obviously better, but will he be able to use it to actually convert it into something, into a submission, into dominating? Because the difference between Islam and Khabib is what they do once there. With the reason Khabib dominated so much on the ground and just put the fear of God in everyone was that when you got grounded, he was smashing your face in and trapping the rest of you so that you couldn't even defend it, which is terrifying. It doesn't matter who you are. That's scary. When someone's trapping your only hope for defense via hook or crook, right? If your arm is hooked somewhere and your face is exposed, your chin's exposed, and that dude's raining elbows down on you the way he would, it's terrifying, right? So guys would they were just defeated morally, right? Mentally, they were defeated in the first round often against Khabib. And I think I don't think he's anywhere near as skilled as Islam standing, but I almost think it's irrelevant because Khabib's threat of the takedown was so terrifying. I think when Islam takes people down, it's whoa, it's magical, it's technical, it's beautiful, right? I think he's got some maybe even more advanced trips. There's parts of his game that are maybe even better than Khabib's. It's just what he does once there. He's just kind of going for submissions. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage usually on the ground. You watch his fight with Poirier, my takeaway is that his boxing boxing was tremendous. He looked a little slower than usual to me, but his boxing was tremendous to stand with Dustin for 5. But the way he finished that out was absolutely astonishing. That takedown, that golf swing takedown into that short arm Darce was just, I mean, that was so, to do that at that point in the fight especially, right? I mean, incredible. But that's his game. His game is takedown submission. It's not takedown smash, right? It's a different thing. So you're not going to demoralize people in the same way with his style. But because he's more competent standing, I think that makes the fight with JDM that much more interesting as far as evenness, I suppose, is concerned. Just really cool. And also a quick note here, and this is a little bit down the road too, but I don't know how much crossover effect there is, although my boxing breakdowns tend to do much better than my MMA breakdowns. Maybe that's just the nature of the fans. But I'm certainly interested to hear what all of you think about Canelo Crawford coming up. It's such a great fight, and I'm glad it's being made right now. Not too late. I think Crawford is certainly better. He's more skilled, right? And he's people call him a technical brawler. This is example 7,000 of the day of another great switch hitter, meaning fighting both stances. I think Crawford is the evolution of the game. Guys like him, Jaron Ennis. I see boxing going there too eventually, hopefully. I think he's just generally more skilled and gets hit a lot less. And in boxing, that usually is the thing at the end of the day. Canelo's chin is madness, right? I don't think it'll be like a finish, but I think if Crawford can just, stay on his toes, keep his defense sharp, I think he can absolutely win that fight, maybe even dominantly. I don't see him like knocking him out or TKO, but I think I like Crawford early. I got to think about it some. I think Canelo's a favorite. I don't know about slight. I think he's like a -2 and change, 240, 220. I could be wrong on that. I believe that was the line last I looked. So who knows? Maybe I'll have gambling advice for that. But I'm looking forward to it nevertheless. Chapter 3 is just Ilia as of late. Obviously, I try to break down everything he does because I think he's fascinating as a fighter, as a human, and he's probably the best fighter in the world right now. What I worry about is that commentary has no idea what they're looking at anymore. They really don't. It's discouraging, and this is hard for me to say because there was a time where it felt like all of this, maybe commentary or maybe going on the JRE or whatever, all of that was like a fingertip away, right? I used to talk to Joe pretty regularly. Obviously, he mentioned me a few times on the podcast. Awesome. I'm grateful for all of that, but I earned it, right? I'm not apologizing. I didn't get lucky. I got all that attention I got on my own via hard work, being good at whatever you want to call it, but no one helped me along the way. If anything, people tried to shut me down along the way. This is my third channel. This isn't new. So while all of that's flattering, I think I used to try to chase something that maybe wasn't coming, so I would kind of zip my lips on certain things because I didn't want to be disrespectful or seem like I wasn't grateful for what, say, Rogan did for me by even giving me shout outs. But I'm watching Oliveira versus Ilia recently, and there's just, I don't want to go through each and every point that was wrong, but there was this thing that was like, oh, I know Ilia's been impressive against Charles, and I'm thinking that dude's like, he's got almost as many losses as Diaz. What are you talking about? Ilia is the future. He just knocked out Holloway. No one's even really hurt Max. He put him out into the shadow realm and he did it fairly easily. Max landed some nice punches. Max is tremendous, but I'm only saying this because he's tremendous. Alex Volkanovski is tremendous. No one's done anything to him at 145 ever. He's beaten everyone there, right? This dude, Ilia, is special good. And it's like they go into a grappling sequence and they're like, oh, here we go. Watch out for Charles. And right away, Ilia reverses that with his beautiful Greco, frees his hips. Watch, and I broke this down too, but look at his hook game, his Greco, and then his jiu-jitsu. Once grounded, he almost gets into a heavy crucifix where he could have ended the fight there. But Charles is very good on the ground, obviously. He goes to that deep half, kind of sweeps out, gets into a heel hook, but Ilia was safe that whole entire time. He lands a really nice punch after the reversal. And again, they're still kind of talking about watch out for the danger. Then they get up, and Rogan says something along the lines of, you can see already that Ilia's in there with a different kind of beast. And I'm going, what fight are you watching? He just landed 2 stiff jabs, dude. He's setting him up to walk into a punch right now. I see it. How do you not with what you make? I got another job that has nothing to do with this that I got to go to, right? I got bills. How do you, best guy at this in the world, not see a tenth of what I see? How does that happen? Put someone else in there. Put another body in the booth that knows what they're seeing technically at this point, right? Ilia was hurting him in pretty much every exchange. Charles had a good first exchange. I think he landed 2 calf kicks that were like, all right. But it was like really clear to me early in that fight that Ilia was setting him up. And I'll tell you another thing, and I'm not even humble brag. I'm just going to brag. But last March, when I moved down to Jersey, I was already saying Ilia is the future. Not March 2025, March 2024. And anyone that was down in Jersey with me will testify to this. Hopefully 1 or 2 will comment, and I'll heart it and I'll pin it or whatever. But anyone that was down in Jersey knows that I was way on the Ilia train. I was all in. Last March, I saw it. I knew what I was seeing. And he's what you could only dream of having in a fighter, right? Is that his desire to get better and his intelligence is second to none. He's got the absolute right fabric, right? The order in which he did things, and then to pick up boxing at a level that he is now with his grappling that was already in place. I mean, that's the future. These are the things I've been, again, talking about forever. It's this combination of low kicks, great footwork, boxing understanding, and grappling. That's I could get more complicated when I explain it, but that's kind of all I'm saying. He's tremendous. Another thing that was wonderful to hear fairly recently was when he was on Rogan, he said that he was a fan of Canelo, which he had said, he always said that. But then he said Julio Cesar Chavez, and I think because I had a conversation with one of the only guys I talked to that's at the high level of the game these days. I was talking to Randy Stanky, who's made some like instructionals. He's great. See him out on, I think he's got some stuff on YouTube. He's definitely on Instagram. Randy Stanky's a striking coach for John Crouch, the MMA lab in Phoenix or thereabout in Arizona. Just a good dude, but a really good mind too. He's kind of like a new school MMA striking coach. Anyway, we were chatting, I think just on maybe on Instagram. I DM'd him or whatever, and I was saying, dude, I was watching Ilia tape, and again, this is like a year ago, and maybe more, definitely more. And I was saying, it's very Julio Cesar Chavez, like it's very imposing and technical, and just, I mean, fun to watch. But I just wanted to bounce it off him to see if he saw the same thing, and he agreed. But I was on that, so he goes on Rogan anyway, and he says that Julio Cesar Chavez was a big, influence on him when he got obsessed with boxing, and I felt, yes, vindicated. I was a little ahead of that because I don't think he had said it publicly before that. Not that I was aware of. But it was frustrating watching that Charles fight right before he got slept. Joe's like, he's in there with this different, he's wearing it different. He's in there with a different kind of guy. And Charles, and the way DC was talking as they're coming to the ring about like, it's different now. It's Charles. We're talking about the strongest guy on earth and the best fight. He's got like 14 losses, man. He gets hit a lot. Ilia hits you. You're in deep shit. It doesn't matter when in the fight. He's got that change the fight power. And whatever that means, sometimes that could just be accuracy really, or timing, or both, or just, blindside punching via speed. I mean, there's a lot of ways that one punch can turn around a fight, but he's got scary power. It's pretty obvious, right? Have I not shown this in video form at this point enough? But how do the top tier commentators not even understand what they're watching? They didn't understand what happened when it hit the ground, or before it went down. They didn't celebrate it, certainly. How is DC incapable of describing what Ilia was doing when I can? None of it makes sense to me. I understand him knowing less about boxing, but knowing less about wrestling, I don't understand. I don't understand. I really don't. And I feel like I saw this appearance thing on the Nelk Boys or Nelk Brothers. I have no idea who these kids are. I've heard of them, but I don't know why they're famous or what they do. I don't know if they have a podcast or if they're on Instagram. I have no idea how they got their fame. Don't get it, personally. But I saw that he did an appearance there, and there was some dude said something about you can meet your wife in Miami. Ilia felt disrespected, and then they sparred, and Ilia went a little harder than I'd like to see a professional fighter go with a civilian when they're sparring, but whatever. I guess maybe they asked for it, because one way or another, you don't say the best guy at punching you in the face in the world that a joke about his wife in any fashion, especially when you're talking in his like fourth language, right? He knows enough to know what you're saying is unsavory, but I don't think you know enough to know not to say it, which is like, dude, how do you not? You're human. This isn't about MMA knowledge. This is just Homo sapien. It's not, you don't need to know much about fighting to understand when you're looking at a killer, right? The look on Ilia's face and then the look on their faces when he G-checked him, like, what did you say? It was refreshing in a way. I think he could have done without, knocking the guys essentially out in sparring, but I don't even get what those dudes are, so maybe I'm talking a little out of turn here. But I do think, to sum this idea up or this point up, I do feel like for a lot of reasons, that included, like, what's he making appearances on? What are they selling him as, right? What is he? What is Ilia Ilia's thing, right? Is he a brash, confident, cocky heel? Is he a man of the people? Is he the matador from Spain with, the red roses? And, just figure it out, though, because people are rooting for him anyway. I mean, his fighting style's enough to sell, but I feel like he's being undersold technically. This is my point. He's being undersold technically because there aren't people in high enough positions celebrating his technique, I think, and he's being under-celebrated as the other part, the casual, what'll bring the casuals in, that part, which is like obviously important, right? The thing that worked with Conor is it felt pretty real. He delivered on promises, and it was fun. There was a time where it became not fun, but in the beginning, the reason that it was fun is because it felt authentic, and he sold the fights in the way that you bought it, right? I think Ilia is a different sell, but I think it's a similar sell, and I don't think it should be that hard. You just need the right people in positions speaking on how magical he is technically, right? Magical. His boxing is the best we've ever seen in mixed martial arts. There's never been anyone with that level of boxing. No way. And no one is more qualified than me to say that. No one. No, because if they are a better boxing mind, they don't even understand grappling. So no, that dude's the best boxer that's ever stepped in the octagon. He's that good. He's that good. And I've been saying it for a long time. Why isn't anyone saying this on TV? It's crazy to me. Instead, there's 1,500 of you maybe that will hear this. It's a travesty. And people wonder why the ship seems like it's sinking. And I don't think this is the only reason, but I feel like they've lost touch with making it about the sport and more about chasing that secondary dollar, that WWE thing. You can't concoct that. For example, Paddy Pimblett. No one that I know that's American gets it or gives a fuck. No one gets it. We don't get it. What's he from? Liverpool? We don't care in America. And we don't get it. He sounds ridiculous. Like, I don't understand anything about that guy. Do I dislike him as a human? No, I don't know the man. I know nothing about him. He impressed me versus Chandler. He fought well. He's impressed me in a few fights, actually. He's not ready for Ilia. Technically, I'll be frank. But we also don't get the gimmicks. Stop telling me I should like that gimmick. It doesn't work here. UFC's an American-based thing. I know it's global, but Conor was huge here. Huge in the US. And he's not from here, but we get it, right? There's more Irish Americans than there are anything else with a hyphen Americans. That's a fact, right? Me included. We don't get that Liverpool fucking Toria. Like, we don't understand what he's saying half the time. That's why I wish Ilia's English was a little better when he was like saying flouty, like how he didn't understand what he was saying because his accent. I wish he could be a little more eloquent in that moment, but his English seemed like a subpar. The point is, stop selling me things that I know are nonsense, okay? Like, attention UFC, please stop, because a lot of people that are like secondary fans are kind of like going, dude, what's up with the UFC? Like, who's the guy now? What are they selling? You could sell, if you can sell Alex Pereira not speaking, right? He speaks no English, not on camera really. If you can sell that, and I understand it's his fighting style doing 95% of the heavy lifting, but if you can sell that, you can certainly sell Ilia, right? So just let things happen organically and then put the right people in position to celebrate it properly. That's all. That's the formula. It's always worked. It's worked Chuck Liddell all the way till modern day, but they're losing it. They're losing it to things like letting Francis Ngannou go, losing it to or celebrating John Jones, who's fought no one in a long time, only fought a couple of guys that were even threatening to him, never fought Rumble, never fought Ngannou, will never fight Aspinall. The GOAT, who's been popped, who's been popped for cheating at every turn. TJ Dillashaw, for example, will never get the proper due because he pissed hot once. Now, I don't know what he was doing before that, and I like TJ, and I know him a little bit on the side, but so maybe, I guess, in a weird roundabout way, I might be partial because I met John, and I didn't like John a long time ago. And this is all public. Going way back, I had a little Twitter beef with Dana about it, and that just came back up like recently, and that was 10 years ago, right? The point is, John Jones, I didn't like the way he was being sold falsely then, and all I was trying to say was sell him as the heel that he is. I met the dude. He's like a strange in-between bully and like second son energy thing. Like the guy that had to play Luigi growing up always because he had big brothers, right? He's got that energy mixed in with a little sociopath and bully. That's John in person, and anyone that's met him will agree. That's what he is. He's an unlikable guy. You're just uncomfortable around. He's not a likable person. Most fighters are pretty cool in person, like most of them. If you're respectful, they're cool. He's not a good dude, right? I don't think that's the secret at this point, but I've been saying it for a decade. So it's not like anything that I was saying back then now is like, that guy, what was he talking about? No. Everything I've been talking about for 10 years is almost prophetic at this point. So maybe I'm onto something, right? Again, I'm not humble bragging. I'm just speaking fact. Moving on. Chapter 4, content going forward, ideas regarding what to post, when, etc., etc. So, do I try to make this a podcast thing? Do I film it? Do I spend the money to do that? Is it worth it? You want to see me on camera? It's what's hardest about this is I would love to just have a monitor and a fight and break it down and point things out. That would be what I do best, right? But you would need a machine behind you. You need a company. You need an ESPN with a teleprompter. I can't afford that, and I'm still risking copyright. So sometimes I wonder what's better off. Should I even bother trying to make this into a video breakdown? Spend all the time editing, which I suck at. I've never been good at that part of it. It's just that the information that I give everyone is good. I'm not good at making YouTube videos. I'm good at analyzing martial arts, right? And I think I make salient points that have stood up over time, right? And consistently. So with that, I just wonder sometimes if I'm better off just talking, right? Despite my rambling ADHD ways, or am I better suited doing just breakdowns and playing it like off camera and maybe using a pen name? Obviously I'm kidding, but I don't know what the best approach is anymore. I really don't, because I've been hovering at the same subscriber count essentially for like 3 years, and that makes no sense to me. And as much as I want to just conspiracy theorist it and say they've turned off the faucet, because it certainly appears that way, I don't want to settle for that either. I don't want to just go, I'm walking away. I feel like I owe it to everyone to have a voice still, because I feel like I still have maybe, a trusted voice at the very least, because I'm not lying to you. I'm going to give you my opinion, and it's going to be genuine. Now, I could be wrong, but everyone can be wrong. I'm wrong often, right? Especially in life. But with this thing, I tend to be a little ahead. So I've got something to say. It's not as though you can't understand what I'm saying, right? I'm not trying to be a caustic prick. I'm just a matter-of-fact guy, and I like to speak fast. I got a lot to say, but I got a little time to say it, right? I gotta eat. So the UFC aren't hiring me, in other words. I don't know going forward what people want, and I'll probably release this as just an audio thing, and then maybe my next day off, I'll edit it and add some things to it or whatever. But I gotta know from you what you want most. You want just 5-minute breakdowns twice a week, right? Where I just do a fire bio or whatever, like I'd say, like I did recently with JDM, do a breakdown like that. Do you want something like that once a week? Would you rather me come on every Monday and just talk for an hour and try to turn that into like a podcast type thing? Would you rather me be on camera? Do you care? Does it matter? Does it matter that I have streaming things? Whatever. Just any feedback's good feedback, if it's constructive especially. I don't know. I know video editing isn't necessarily my strong suit, right? And that's not, it's not a secret. So with all that, I'm thinking of just things going forward, what I should do, if I should try to set up like a little phony, studio like everyone else seems to do on YouTube and just be on camera, if that matters. I don't care. I don't want to make an investment that's worth nothing. Or if you just want me to kind of Bill Burr it with my cell phone down and speak like I'm doing right now, I'll do either, right? It's just, I don't know what people want more of. Do you want more information? Do you want more concise? Do you want it more artistic? As an artist, those things matter to me, right? I want to give you something that makes sense to you. It's not about me. The information's already in my head, right? So if you're going to comment on anything about this video, please keep in that realm. Comment on whatever you want. But if you do, even if you don't normally comment on my channel, please give me some feedback on this, what you'd like to see me do, right? Because in other words, no one's hiring me. It's not that thrill is gone. That dream is dead. That's a wrap, son. I said Candyman too many times somewhere. I don't know, but I think that much is obvious. So feedback wise, that'd be wonderful. And lastly, just to close up, I want to just say this. There are some of you that are tremendous that, peek your heads out once in a while. You'll follow me on Instagram, reach out and go, dude, I started watching your videos in like 2017. Recently, a Lucy Carbon student hit me up on Instagram. We've been talking like here and there. And it's always crazy to me, right? When someone's like, from halfway around the world and, has been watching my videos for X amount of years and said that it, helped them with this, that, and the other thing. And they're now professional fighters. That happened, right? And knowing that I've had any mark like that on anyone is tremendous. Someone who I respect a ton, who's actually got a good YouTube channel himself. I'll give a shout out to Sonny Brown. I think when he started watching my channel, he was like, he might have been a white belt or a blue belt. There are a lot of people in the game that have known me from before they got where they're going, right? And I don't want any credit for that. What I want is for the people that are on the up, like just reach out to me and be a human being and just say, hey, because I try to respond to people. I don't blow people off unless I feel like you're either trolling or a bot or, you know what I mean? mean? It would have to be some kind of negativity, you know, some Israel shill. Like, don't bother. You know, don't. I'm not going to play that game. But if you're, you know, in the realm of human and you just want to shoot the shit, and especially if you want to talk like technique, I'm game. You know, I'll try to make time for you. I don't have all the time in the world, but I love hearing stories like, I used to watch your breakdowns back when I was in this place at this time 5 years ago. That's excellent to hear. So please give me that kind of feedback. And ultimately what I'm saying is, like, follow me on social media. I can't always do it, but I try to give some good, fresh insight live during events. So like, there's big fights on, I tend to try to at least be on Twitter. I'm giving you like good information live, what I'm seeing, right? Because in real time, I'm usually cooking, you know? And that's, again, when I'm at my best, but I'm just not in a position to do that. How, right? How would I do that? Would I stream during the fights? I don't know. I think for us, like that, maybe I should do that. Maybe that's everyone's takeaway, right? Going forward, all right, dude, you should maybe live stream during the fights. All right. If I get enough people telling me that, then I'll invest in that. Maybe switch my schedule around a bit. I don't mind. I don't want to waste my time at this point, because I've already said what I have to say, kind of thing. I just want to do the right thing in the future. So, future tense. Please let me know what it is you want. And follow me on social media. I have a stupid Facebook page that's just Dorman MMA. That one stinks. I don't pay attention to it. I got an Instagram that I'm just posting like my thumbnails for my videos on. I'm not much of a selfie guy, I'll be honest, though. You know, when I was in Jersey, I posted a few coaching videos, but I was like, it's a lot of work. I don't care about Instagram. Twitter's easy. So, that's probably the best place to follow me. And I think I'm verified there. So, yeah. Follow me on Twitter. It's just at Brendan Dorman. And on Instagram, it's at Brendan Dorman MMA. I have a Facebook account, so my niece recently was telling me that I should be on TikTok, and she'd know. She's in that age group. She's in high school, and you know, my nephew thinks I'm like some rock star because Joe Rogan mentioned me on the podcast, which is cool. But you know, kids tell me I should be on TikTok. I don't know anything. I don't even know how that works. I don't know anything about TikTok. I don't even know if you can convert that into like money. I don't know. But I don't. Is that ridiculous? Like any of the above. I need some constructive feedback here as to what we want to do going forward, rather than me just rambling about last weekend's fights. You know, that can get old too. I'd like to get really nuanced in the details of things, but I had to just make a kind of laissez-faire, casual, I'm talking to a phone video, and get some feedback from everyone, hopefully. So just comment, please, or share, please, or let's get some word of mouth organic thing going on here so that I can do the right thing going forward, because I've freed myself up socially enough to be able to do this and my other thing, right? That's the ultimate point here. I have time now to do this, but I want to do it right. I don't want to half-ass it. So, yeah, anything you can do to help is always. I try to respond to everyone. If you know, just following and sharing on social media, things like that. That kind of, those small things go a long way, and it'll be much appreciated. And I'm always one to pay it forward. So I appreciate all of you. Much love, and thanks for tuning in. And we'll talk again soon.